All right, we are going to go ahead and get started this evening. So if you would go ahead and stand with us, we are going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Evanson, would you like to kick us off? All righty, well, thank you for coming this evening. This is just a work session for the board. We do actually have a business meeting later because we have a few things that we have to approve this evening, so we will go into a business meeting here in just a little bit. First of all, we would like to, we have a special recognition because this team and these community partners have been working hard over the last 2 weeks. So we would like to recognize the Say Something Assembly. So myself and Director Evanson are going to come to the front.
Good afternoon. Will Andrews and Ashley Dawson, Dave and Nancy Kimbrough, along with Jan Kimbrough Miller, Cody Davis, and Garrett Davis, can you please join us at the front of the room? And anyone else that you brought with you that you'd like to bring up?
We know. We're going to make you.
Earlier this year, District 51 partnered with the Say Something Assembly organization to foster a culture of safety, awareness, and support within our District 51 community. Over the last 2 weeks, Andrew, the CEO and founder of Operation for Freedom, and his team have visited all D51 secondary schools hosting the Say Something Assembly, which is aimed at assisting students in confronting significant challenges including bullying, suicide, addiction, sex trafficking, and other pressuring issues. We want to commend the dedicated efforts of Andrew and the Say Something Assembly team for empowering our students with the knowledge and tools to speak up and take action in times of need. Furthermore, our engaged and supportive community partners are essential to our district's success. They play instrumental roles in helping us facilitate opportunities that engage, equip, and empower our students to thrive in school, career, and life. Dave Kimbrough, Cody Davis, and Garrett Davis were integral in facilitating this initiative. Through their support in securing funding and their dedication to advocating for the safety and well-being of every student in District 51, we were able to provide these assemblies across all secondary D51 schools. These assemblies have had a significant impact. Together, your collective efforts have opened the door, creating a culture of open communication and empowerment, resulting in a safer and more supportive environment for our students to thrive. The Board of Education and Superintendent Hill would like to thank you all for your outstanding contributions to making our schools the very best they can be. Your support in preparing our students for life within and beyond D51 is invaluable. We are thankful for your partnership and look forward to the continued collaboration and ensuring the safety and well-being of our students. Would any of you like to share anything? You've shared a lot already, but
I'll just say that I think I made it to about 4 assemblies, which you guys did a lot in 2 weeks, Andrew and his team, and they were extremely powerful. Some very touching things that came out of this of kids helping stand in the gap for their peers, and then also kids crying out for help. And so I just want to thank our community partners, Cody, Kronos Builders, and Kimbrough team, which is more than just Dave, but Dave's at the helm, so for their generous donation, because this did not cost the district any money whatsoever, and they footed the bill for this team to come in and do this work. And our counseling team, I heard, was on point and did a great job. So thank you guys so much. It was a very powerful experience, and we look forward to seeing you all again maybe in 2 years. Like, can we do this again? So awesome. Well, thank you. Do you want to get a picture of the team? Okay, stay here. She's going to get a picture of y'all. Let's give them another round of applause.
Say something.
Yeah, say something.
I just wanted to thank the school board for being so open to this. I know it's something completely different than what's been done here before. I know it was a little risky to try something new and let kids say something. So I just really appreciate the district support. I know you get a lot of flack for what you do, a flack for what you don't do. So just wanted to give you kudos for supporting that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And you can sit here and watch the rest of our work session, and as riveting it as it is, or you are welcome to go and spend the rest of the evening with your family. So thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. So we're out. Yeah. I guess you could say, do you want to go back to class? Do you have homework or a test? Yeah. Bye, guys. All right. We were thinking, so number 3 on our list is the board goals and final facilitation, but we know we have people sitting here waiting, and that's board work that we could do. So we were thinking about moving number 3 to 5, so we could do the strategic plan update if you're all ready. And then we could do the future bond mill levy override discussion. Are you guys all good with that? And then we'll do the board.
Guess it depends. Is George online waiting?
Oh, George that's right.
Yes, he's already online waiting.
So I mean, if he's okay with maybe moving the strap plan up, but I would maybe have him go after that, and then we can do the bond stuff at the end. So
Well, if George, sorry, I forgot that, I'm sorry, George. What we could do is just see if we want to ask George any questions, and then we could kind of put a pin in it and come back later if the board feels we need more discussion. I don't know, what all would you like to do? Okay. George, did you want to kind of give, I guess, another little overview of this, and then we'll see if the board has some questions? I know, I think just in some conversation with board members, I think we're looking at what our goals are collectively as a board, and kind of really looking to clarify and define those and just have a conversation around it. So George, if you want to chime in?
I'm happy to. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, great. What I can do is I can show you some notes I've taken on the documents and just kind of offer some advice on that. Do you want me to touch on any of those other documents I shared with you, or save that for another time? I guess really what I'm asking is how short you want me to make this.
I think for this evening, the board is looking for us to kind of clarify and set our goals, and then we could be in touch with you about those other documents. So you're talking about like the board self-evaluation and things like that? Is that what you're?
Yeah, I'm talking about the roles and the potential to get to a superintendent evaluation out of that and the board evaluation.
If you need feedback from us, then we could definitely discuss that this evening. I think that's something we all decided when we did the workshop or our retreat, that we wanted to be able to have the board's self-evaluation and a superintendent evaluation that came out of that work.
Sounds great. And my plan was to actually just talk to those documents that I shared with you so you can understand them. And I don't need to do much more than that. So if you don't mind, I just wanted to go first to the governance operations norms document, in which there was a request to get this language in here that's highlighted, specifically the effort that when board members, someone reaches out directly to a board member, the board member includes the public information officer in the loop, so that the public information officer might start to sense whether there was a bigger issue going on in the community that they maybe needed to coordinate some response to. I just wanted to touch on that, if that's okay, just to let you know that was a note I took during the meeting, that I went ahead and made sure it got into those revised norms. Okay.
That
Now
looks great.
regarding the goals, this page here that I shared with Ms. Navarette, to share with you. What I've done is I've added these blue sections in conversation with each of you and pulling it all together. Some things were mentioned multiple times. There's an item for sure that was mentioned by one individual board member, and so you guys have to decide if you want to make it a board goal. But what I do is I add some notes in here as well as to how you might make it more quantifiable. The first one is to work as a collaborative unit, model civility, and come together to make decisions in the best interest of students. I'm going to highlight the how you might measure this, and I can offer an answer, and that is if you finalize the board role and you develop a self-evaluation process for that, you would be able to measure that over time, how well you're fulfilling your roles in the sense of working collaboratively, modeling civility, and making decisions in the best interest of students. Okay. The second one is about developing policy to move the district in a clear direction, ensuring all are up to date and address modern challenges in our schools. That was mentioned by multiple board members and as well. My suggestion to make that more quantifiable is to maybe place a timeline on that if you wanted to solidify that goal. The third one is general feeling amongst the board that the district's on a positive trajectory as far as learning outcomes and has done some really good work regarding compensation for staff. And I just ask you once again how you might measure this as a goal if you wanted to adopt it for sure. And that last one is to create a committee of students with diverse learning experiences to engage and inform the board about desired improvements. And my question for you on that one would also be by when. And, ultimately, I think if you were to do that, you might want to make a decision as to how often you would engage with that group. With that, I'm going to stop sharing for a moment in case there's any questions about those particular goals as options.
So just some, I guess, thoughts, on number one, to work as a collaborative unit, model civility, and come together to make decisions in the best interest of students. I think I like that statement. I just wonder if the board wears a lot of hats. We're the conduit between the community and the district. And so while we have to make a lot of decisions that are focused on students, I don't know if this implies that it's the only decisions we make, because we have to consider families, staff, educators. I don't know. I don't know if we should just say in the best interests of students, families, and the community, because we wear a lot of different hats, or if we just want to keep this statement just as succinct as it is. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it negates that we're not.
I'm hearing you. Though what I always argue is you make decisions in the best interest of families. You are serving in the best interest of students. If your decisions to attract and retain high quality staff obviously majorly impact adults, guess what? That's pretty darn good for students as well, if you get my drift.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. It was just a thought. So like I said,
I'm just plugging that in red right now. I hope you can see what I'm doing in case that's where you want to go.
well, and I'm just throwing it out as one individual board member. I'm open to hear whatever anybody else says too.
With the explanation, I think that does cover everything. And that was just that was the intention, is that it just covers all involved, because our staff is obviously very important, as are the families of the students. So if we're doing I understand what you're saying, George, if we're doing what's truly in the best interest of the student, it will also therefore be in the best interest of the others. So I think with that explanation, I'm good with it the way it is.
I think, for the last one, to create a committee of students with diverse learning experiences to gauge and inform the board about desired improvements. I worry about trying to replicate things that like Dr. Hill's already doing with his student advisory group. I don't know if there's a way that we just instead of getting a whole nother group of students. And again, we could get into the weeds on this a little bit later, but I just wonder if there's something that's already happening, if the board, or Dr. Hill brings information back to the board from the students, or things that the students want to bring to the board. I just, not to have like additional meetings or go find additional students if we already know some of this is kind of happening at a certain level.
I'm open to whatever the board, I thought I heard George, whatever the board wants to do on that one. If it's, you're right, I have student advisory groups at the 5 high schools that I meet with 3 to 4 times a year. But if the board's wanting to hear directly from students, we could work on something for, even if it has to start next school year, where maybe it's once a semester, pulling a group together. The thing that we ran into years ago, issues with, was trying to pull kids together from multiple schools in one place. It was hard to get them after school to come to one location. A lot of them had sports and other things going on. So that's why I go out to the actual schools. But I'm open to having conversations. However, I can help facilitate that, I should say. If the board's wanting to hear directly from kids, we can work something out. So it's whatever y'all want.
That was one of my goals. And my thought was, yep. And that was one of my goals, and my thought was, when I think of Dr. Hill's group, his group are typically student government kids, youth, students, so it's not as diverse as I think that needs to be heard. I already met with some youth in Fruita High School, and what I'm doing, just asking them, like, what are the challenges for you to be in school, to stay in school? Finding out that, how do they like their school? I think that gives us information, because they talked about how they are bullied. They talked about, because they are in KP programs, how some teachers feel that they're the bad kids. And then I also met with the principal, and I discussed everything that the kids said. And the students also said that they would like notice of when the board meetings are being held, because they would like to come, but they never hear about student, in this, at the beginning of school, when they're saying these are student announcements, they never say what the board meetings are, and when they are, and what the agenda is, and they would like to know. They discussed about what are their interests, why did they choose key performances versus regular classes, why they are not involved with student government. And part of it was because they don't take those classes, and there's restrictions on them to be able to be in student government, so their voices are never heard. So that was my goal for myself that I want to follow up with. So my plan is to go to each high school and just meet with kids that are not doing the best in school, that have challenges, and meet with them and say, how do we keep you into school? What does the school need to do so that you will stay and that you will graduate? Because those are voices that are not being heard from.
So yeah, like I said, we can set something up. I think it'd be good if we went that direction. My suggestion would be that there's an opportunity for all 5 of y'all to hear from the students. And just to clarify, my student groups aren't student government groups. What I told the principals was I want a representation of your entire student body. So that's what I requested from them. But to that point, I think, you got value out of that. I would like for the whole board to get value out of it. So if it's something that the board wants to move forward with, we can help set that up. And like I said, even if it's only once a semester, if it's just hard to coordinate it, we can at least get 2 times a year or maybe more opportunities to bring kids together from the schools. Like I said, if you're going to do a meeting in one location, you're going to have to end up having high school students because they have to travel. It'd be a lot harder for middle school unless we set it up to where y'all actually go out to the schools. But totally open to whatever y'all want to do. It might be easier to set it up to kick off for next school year, but I'm open to helping however.
I wonder too if, because students are busy or if they're relying on, transportation from parents, if we publicly noticed, if obviously 3 or 2 or more of us wanted to go out and meet with students at the school, and they could actually then just meet with the board members in maybe a more like relaxed environment, rather than, the tables and microphones and everything. So, So we could figure out the details on that. But I mean, I would be open to going and meeting the kids at the school. And if, you know, we could just publicly notice it if more than two of us are going to go. And if we did that maybe a couple different semesters, or even once a quarter. I mean, if we're doing board coffees, then maybe we could just see if that would make it easier for students to feel heard, so.
So, what was it, a couple of weeks ago that you and I participated in a class again over at Grand Junction High School? And we did hear that from a few of the students in that group, that they would like an opportunity to share some of their ideas with the board. And maybe we can even get it to where we split up the schools and two of us at a time go. I think it's always good for more than one person to be there to hear whatever it is that is discussed. And then we can come back and share it as a group. So we wouldn't all have to be, you know, at all of the schools, but we could certainly split it up where a couple of us went at a time, and then we wouldn't have to notice it and do all of those things. unless that's
And
something-
George, my guess is if it was important enough to end up on this list of 4 that, you know, we should do whatever we can to make it happen. So I'm open to finding a way to make that happen.
I'm pretty proud of you guys, the way you're talking about this. It was presented from the viewpoint of at least 2 of the board members. And I think key to it was that underrepresented groups, you know, in terms of student leadership, might be listened to at some point. And all I can tell you is some of the strategies you're talking about are outstanding, and you'll learn a ton. You know, the students are your main clients, and often you hear how great school is for some kids who are doing, you know, who the system's working for. And sometimes you get some great ideas of how you might improve it for the kids who are having a little struggle with that. So kudos to you. I would encourage you to, but the biggest thing I encourage you to do is make sure you're all hearing it, and that it's not being cherry picked by 1 or 2 board members at a time. You know, the system of having several board members go to each school and then maybe reporting back could be awesome. But I would just encourage you to try not to go down the route where one person's responsible for it.
I agree. I think what we could do is, before next year, we could work on a plan of getting to all of our high schools, I would say including R5, and seeing how we could work with Dr. Hill and his team to work with the board, sitting down and meeting with some students so that we could hear from them. So I think, you know, we can work on a plan for that. And if it's more than 2 of us, then we'll just publicly notice it, which is totally fine. And I think the students really like when we meet them where they're at and kind of, in a sense, on their turf. And I think they feel more comfortable in sharing. So I'd be more than happy to do that. All right. Did you guys have any other thoughts on this? What we can do is work on this. We can work on this in subsequent workshops as well, and work on the timelines we want to put on these things. So I would encourage you guys to think about, if you guys are good, we could look at what these 4 are: the collaboration, the development of policy, the positive trajectory, and then creating the committee of students. And maybe that's just small committees at each of the schools, and the board then goes out to meet with them. And these could kind of be our goals. And so then I would encourage you all to think about, how would we want to measure that? How would we think we've been successful, and what time frame or timelines that we'd want, like what George was putting in blue. So would that work? And we could kind of come back and give our thoughts on it at our next workshop? Would that work for y'all? Yep. Okay. Does that help give clarity for board goals? I know we haven't actually done it this way before, but I want to make sure everybody feels like we know and we all feel good moving forward together on these things. And again, we can, sometimes as things change and shift, we can always, these are kind of sort of living goals too. They can be tweaked. Okay. All right, George, did you have This is great. Thanks for doing all the typing and writing.
And thanks for spending time with me. If you'll give me 30 more seconds, I'd like to
Go
give
for
you
it.
just a fast review of something I would like to have you understand that I shared with you, and I hope you all received it. So let me get back to sharing real quick. It's a little scary. I'm going to share something out of my personal photos file. Okay, good. I went right where I want. You might remember this activity we did over on the wall to the left of President Heights. And what I did from that is I created documents. There's one for the superintendent, and there's one for the board for in terms of establishing the role. And you see they're broken up into 6 categories. I don't really want to split hairs about what's where, but what I did is I color coded to help you understand. In the one on the superintendent, for example, is what the shared duties are with the board, and then the yellow ones are what the board recognizes the superintendent is solely responsible for. And so if I scroll through there, you can just see that there are certain colors that represent that. If I then pull up the next document, it's virtually the same thing. I just took out the color, and it would be whether it's the superintendent document or the board document that we could then, if you get to the point where you're comfortable with maybe myself and Dr. Hill building out an evaluation rubric for each of these. Just find a way to measure each of these roles that we've determined belong to the superintendent and or the board, that I would be happy to support you guys in doing that work. And that would give you the opportunity to ultimately sort of measure whether you are doing that work collaboratively in the best interest of students based on your defined role, for example. So just let me know. You just give me the thumbs up on that, and I'll continue working on that. Okay.
That's really good.
I'm seeing everyone kind of nodding their heads. I think everyone would love for you to take those 2 different roles, and we can create the superintendent evaluation based off of those, I guess, duties that we delineated, and then a board evaluation off of those. I think that would be helpful. Would you? Okay. I think the board is on board with that.
The board's on board. Great.
board's
And
on board.
so I'll plan on a month out having sample a proposed process for each and a proposed rubric. And then we can start getting deeper into how that might work for you, what you guys might prefer. Fair enough?
That would be great. That's amazing information. Thank you so much, George.
All right. You guys have a good rest of the meeting. Thanks for your trust and for allowing me to come in.
Well, thanks for facilitating. We appreciate you.
Thanks, George.
All right, any other comments, board, on that? Okay, so we'll plan, we'll put it again on a workshop, and we'll come up with our own goals. And then what we'll do is, now that the board has our board binders, what we'll do each year is we will be putting this information in our binder and kind of updating that every year. Maybe the goals will stay the same, or maybe we'll change them, but what I'd like to do is kind of calendar out when, as a board, we want to start looking at this information again. I think the roles, I don't know that much of that's going to change. I think that information will stay the same unless there's some kind of new role that comes up, but
There could be a new project or something like
Right.
that we want to add to it specifically, but
True.
the bulk of it, I think, will stay the same.
But I think each year we need to gauge whether these are still goals we want to do. And obviously with the turnover of new board members, that could change as well, because like Jose Luis obviously had some things that he'd like to see and get done. And so I think with each turnover of the board, you're going to want to discuss things as well. Some of these are obviously long-term as well. Okay. Any other thoughts? All right, great. All right. Well, okay, that didn't take as long as I thought, so I thank you everyone for waiting. We will now go into the strategic plan update. So for students, robust and aligned options for learning experiences. So if that team is ready, you can come on up. I just have to say that it's so nice, having been on the board now for a couple of years, that when you see people walk into the room, like, we actually, your faces look familiar now instead of like before. And I know as new board members, obviously you both have had the experience of being in our schools, but it's nice when you know where people are and who they are and what their roles are. So just nice to see you all.
And it's nice, wow. That was a lot of Jen. I'll keep it down. This is not our presentation. Just hit escape.
Look for ours. Maybe ours is down.
It's yours.
Yep, last one Friday. Yeah, we can pull it.
Well, the one in the shared drive is not a Google Doc, it's a downloaded PowerPoint.
No worries. Thank you. Okay, round two.
All right, Sherry, you'll be the, yeah. Wait, you lost it. There we go. Okay.
Don't let me touch things. All right.
Okay, on screen is the strategic plan priority for robust and aligned options. It reads, District 51 students are equipped to pursue career, post-secondary, or military options upon graduation. That is the goal of this particular strategic plan task force, and it is the goal we all share as D51 educators. This slide helps us think about how we are organized to support robust and aligned options. There are, as a reminder, 3 focus areas: prepared and supported students, prepared and supported staff, and engaged and supportive community partners. We have 3 priority areas. Each priority area has an objective and a goal for each of the next 3 years. This evening, we'll be sharing progress towards our goals and robust aligned options under the umbrella of prepared and supported students. As you read on the opening slide, the objective is to ensure District 51 students are equipped to pursue career, post-secondary, or military options upon graduation. And the development of a graduation profile attributes is a critical part of equipping students to pursue their interests. So now I'll introduce you, or since we've already established you know, I'm going to ask Sherry Taylor to tell you more about how this focus area supports the graduate profile and the specific goals of this task force.
Hi, thank you. I am Sherry Taylor, Director of Career and College Readiness, and I'm sure all of you have seen this several times, but this is our D51 graduate profile, and this really, if you really look at it, it's an excellent document. The power really comes on the second sheet, the sheet that has all of the different attributes, and if you look at those attributes, what we've really asked every adult to do is to look through all of them and pick 2 to 3 that they can work on with either their own children at home or students in the classroom or students on the team that they're coaching or whomever it is that they're working with. If you look at these are skills and attributes that we want all of our students to have, and it's really everyone has the ability and the opportunity to have these conversations with the kids. None of them on there are things that you wouldn't want. Like you look at teamwork. Follow a process to generate ideas, negotiate roles and responsibilities, respect consensus when making decisions. I think that's something that any employer would want for their students. We want our students to help understand that teamwork's required in everything they do. And so if you really look at that, we encourage you to pick a couple of them and start working with kids when you work with them. Okay, if you look at the next slide, this is the strategic plan that we created when we first were tasked with this, and these were the 3 goals that we decided upon. We have completed our year 1 goal, the task force did, and that was to identify and map the specialized pathways. So we were able to, when we presented that last spring, all of the opportunities that are available to our students in the various schools that we have. This year, we, by the end of this calendar year, so December 2024, we will have all of the pathways and a menu of options for our students. So currently, our high schools are working on creating, let's say I want to go into health and human services, and that's the pathway I want to do, then the high schools are all creating what elective courses I should maybe take to experience and to see if that's really what I like and want to do with my life, or, oh, it's not really what I thought, so maybe let me try a different pathway. So those pathways will be completed, and students will be using that menu of options by the end of the 2024 school year, so the end of next fall. In the meantime, though, our charge has been accelerated due to the Elementary Declining Enrollment Committee, the EDEC committee. They made some recommendations, and this is one of their slides, and this is the 5 areas that they wanted the district to look at, everybody to look at, to address the declining enrollment. One of them is specifically our task force, promote and increase robust and aligned options. So we have looked very closely at their recommendations. We are implementing all of their recommendations. They will be implemented. You will learn by the end of this presentation how each of those recommendations are being implemented. We have combined their work with our work and are moving forward in it. The biggest goal that we are charged with, I feel like, is ensuring that we advertise, that we strengthen, that we continue to add to the robust and aligned options so that students can really be ready for life after high school. At this time, I'd like to introduce our task force members. Some of them are here with us. Some of them are not able to be here. Carrie Bollinger, Tope Elementary School principal. Curtis Engelhardt is not able to be here. He represents Grand Junction Economic Partnership. He is the executive director. Sonia Gates is with us. She is our special education coordinator. Zeb Hayward is with us, Palisade High School assistant principal. Phil Johnston is not able to be with us. He is the Mount Garfield Middle School assistant principal. We have Kelly Ruiz from CMU Tech, Director of Student Services, who is on our committee. Steve States, the Grand River principal, and then Kayla Witzel, the counselor coordinator. Shauna Hobbs is here representing Central High School assistant principal, and she is going to present. I skipped over her. I went straight to Phil from Zeb. Sorry, Shauna. You're going to present, so I better introduce you. At this time, I am going to turn it over to Carrie Bollinger for our elementary options.
Good evening. Thank you all for the time to share and celebrate our robust options that we have at the elementary school level. First elementary option that we have is the Dual Immersion Academy. This is a K-5 school that delivers dual language content to 276 of our students. The Dual Immersion Academy has been in the district for 21 years. Second, we have Grand River Academy. Grand River Academy offers our students online and hybrid learning opportunities at 2 different locations. It currently offers this option to 46 D51 students and has been in existence for 13 years. Finally, we have our STEAM options. New Emerson Elementary, Pomona Elementary, and Tope Elementary all offer elevated experiences in science, technology, engineering, art, and math. STEAM has been at New Emerson for 13 years, Tope for 8 years, and at Pomona for 5 years. Next, Nikki Johnston will share our middle school options.
Hello, and thank you again for your time. At the middle school, we have options for our D51 learners. First, we have the Challenge program that serves 83 of our students. The Challenge program offers the opportunity for students to accelerate their core learning around math and English. These students often leave their middle school years having completed high school core classes, allowing them the opportunity to take more diverse and rigorous courses in high school. Next is the middle school dual immersion program. DIA has been an option for our students for 16 years and offers the students opportunities to have core instruction in both English and Spanish, further increasing their language skills. DIA currently is utilized by 138 D51 students and is located at Bookcliff Middle School and has been an option for 16 years. Grand River continues to support D51 students with online and hybrid options for 170 middle school students. Finally, we have the Middle Years program, which gives students access to an internationally vetted and internationally minded program of education designed by the International Baccalaureate. The Middle Years program is a 6th through 10th grade program, and Mount Garfield Middle School is currently in the candidacy stage with IB to offer this to their 6th through 8th grade students. Mount Garfield has over 500 students, and all students will receive MYP programming. Now I'm going to turn it over to Zeb Hayward and Shauna Hobbs, which will be sharing our high school options.
Yeah, so I wanted to echo my colleagues and thank you again for hearing more about our options. High school offers many options of all of our learners as they near the end of their K-12 journey and start making their post-secondary plans. First off, we have advanced placement courses. Advanced placement courses offer students the opportunity to engage in college-level courses and receive college credit by taking and passing the AP National Exam. Over 1,100 students take this opportunity in a variety of courses from math and science to art and language courses. AP courses are offered by all 4 of our traditional high schools. Next, we have concurrent enrollment. Concurrent enrollment is similar to AP in that students take college-level coursework. In the case of concurrent enrollment, students are taking courses offered by Colorado Mesa University, CMU Tech, and Pathways in Technology Early College High School, otherwise P-Tech. As you can see by the numbers, a variety of students utilize this opportunity to gain credit. Another option offered to our D51 high schools are the Middle Years program and diploma program. Both are international baccalaureate programs, and MYP is a 6th through 10th grade program, and the DP diploma program is an 11th through 12th grade program, and both of these are offered at Palisade High School. So I'll turn it over here to Shauna.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so continuing with our high school options, our alternative options for different pathways for different learners. R5 Valley, sorry, not long enough, R5 Valley. Key Performance and Grand River offer a variety of options for students who would like an alternative to our traditional brick and mortars. These options offer students a variety of different methods in which to complete their high school education. Another option for student is the Career Center. Career Center offers hands-on experience in pathways such as floral design, small engine repair, and early childhood education. The Career Center offers these unique opportunities for 393 of our D51 students. Our district has one JROTC program, which is Junior Reserve Officer Training, and it is run out of Central, and we have 152 students in that program. And then lastly, Central also offers a STEM program, and we currently serve 152 students, and I think we have 49 coming in as 8th graders. And now I'm going to turn this over to Nikki Johnston to explain your next steps.
So with our robust options, we have 3 partial pathways. First off, our language pathway. We currently have an elementary and middle school option, but do not have a full high school option. Having a high school dual immersion program would require a smaller school setting and would limit students' access to other extracurricular options. So our goal at high school is to make sure students can access language options that suit their interest and are available across all 4 years. We do have strong language learning options for students at Palisade with the IB program and at Grand Junction High School with their advanced language course offerings. We also promote the opportunity for bilingual students to earn the Seal of Biliteracy, which students can work toward and earn in 8th grade and again in 12th grade by showing language proficiency in reading, writing, and speaking. Our second option, STEAM and STEM, We currently have 3 options at the elementary school level and 1 at the high school level, but we are missing a middle school option to complete the opportunity for students. IB, we currently have a high school option and a middle school that is going through candidacy, but no elementary options. So how can we move forward in building in alignment with these options to support K-12 learning? Firstly, with the help of CEI, we have built a family and community feedback interest survey to find out what the needs are of our family and community as it relates to these unique programming options. This survey also will help us to see what our community knows and understands about the options that we already have for our students. That survey will open tonight and will close April 15th. Secondly, we're developing a process to review new programming options and better support the current options that we have. This is to ensure the learning and alignment of our current options and also to help schools who would like to offer new and different options. The review process needs to couple with the process of finance as it's developing. We aim to develop this process by the end of the year and have it ready to use by next year. Lastly, we need to strengthen our ICAP plans for students. This is our vehicle to really know and understand the needs of our students and provide options that suit their needs and ultimately prepare them for their future. Improving ICAP is the goal listed on the strategic plan. We have a new platform, School Links, where the ICAP is housed, and the ICAP engagements would occur K-12, but are being redesigned and augmented, especially in the early grades. Here is our survey. We would like to encourage everyone in attendance tonight to take this survey. We will be working with our communications departments to get this out to the families and communities and promote it from now until April 15th. What questions do you have for us?
It's a free for all.
Can you expand just a bit on the ICAP program?
Yes, we can. So ICAP is an individual career academic plan, and ultimately, we are moving into 5th grade next year. Eventually, it's going to be kindergarten through 12th grade. And basically what it is it's a combination of a whole bunch of different activities, and every year the kids do different activities. And it helps them to understand what they like and what they are good with and good at, and then combine those somewhere throughout that the middle of the road with those 2 areas, so that they maybe have an idea as to what they want to do when they graduate. So they'll take a survey, and the survey will help them see what strengths they have. Or they'll take an interest inventory, and it'll help them to see what they really like to do and enjoy. And so they get all this information, and then the goal is that we then provide throughout their experiences, their academic years with us, opportunities to experience the variety of careers that are out there and take classes. So let's say I'm thinking I want to go down the pathway, some sort of finance, and I think maybe I want to be an accountant. Well, okay, then maybe take one of our accounting classes at the high school, and you'll learn, yeah, it's for me, or this is not for me. So the goal is to help kids figure out what they might want to do, and then give them opportunity to take classes, do job shadowing, go on field trips, do a variety of experiences to see if that's really what they want to do, so that we're not just sending them out when they graduate unsure of what direction they want to go. Yes, it is. It's state mandated that we provide it for our students 6th through 12th grade. And again, we're moving it down into the elementary schools. We appreciate TOPE is actually helping us pilot that, as well as some of our other elementary schools.
So can I chime in on that one just a little bit? Is there a place that we can view the surveys that are given to students to
Absolutely, yes. Each grade has different activities, and we could certainly pull those up and show you anything and everything that's in that. It's all housed in School Links. Every semester, the students have one activity that they do, and we could certainly have anybody who's interested, just let me know, and we can get you going on that.
And then is that something that D51 has developed, or is that also something that comes from the state?
So the state just requires that we do an ICAP. We do an ICAP. We have created, Andrea Bolton and a team of counselors have created the lessons for each grade level. So it's different at each grade level. And also the CAT team, which is led by John Burke, they create the experiences at the high school and middle school level for the students. So we've created the pathway for our students. And we, 2 years ago.
Sherry, would you share, it's based on the career clusters. And so ensuring that students know and understand what career clusters from medical to whatever industry, I'm sorry.
Accounting or
Exactly,
whatever,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Business,
so
finance,
all of
marketing.
the surveys and the activities are based on these career clusters, so students know and understand maybe where their interests lie. Then within those career clusters, what would a pathway be needed for you to be able that once you leave your public school education, this system, that what would you need? We all know that you've got to have some sort of post-secondary education, and so what would that look like? If you're interested in mechanics, what kind of mechanics might you be interested in? Where would you go to school? And what should you be taking in your public school years to ensure that you're ready and able to take advantage of the career that you have your eye on?
And then I'm also, I know Sherry and I have talked about this a little bit as we're in a couple of other committees together. I'm interested in really looking at how much information about some of these pathways that kids are aware of as they tend to lean into some of those different career opportunities. One of the things that Sherry and I have talked about is, what's their earning potential? Is that really looked at, and how much do they understand that before they go down a path, right? We all know kids that have taken a path that they paid maybe a lot of money for some post-secondary education just to find out that they couldn't live and pay their student loans back. So I'm interested in that further.
I think that's the beauty of Sherry's department and the leadership that she offers with that department, ensuring that she's supporting all the schools. So it's career, college, and military. Not everybody has to go to or would be expected or needs to go to a 4-year school, but what interest or what career cluster, and then what are those post-secondary or the post-school options out there?
And one of the activities is you kind of decide maybe what career you want to have, and then you do a financial budget. What is the salary? What did it take to get there? And so that is one of the activities that we do. Up in the junior, senior year range, we start doing that when they really kind of start understanding money a little bit more and are going to be responsible for it here in a little bit. So, yeah. Any other questions about anything?
So that would lead me into, so like when students want to pursue things at the Career Center, is that something that as they go through the ICAP, then the team or the counselors are looking at that and then utilizing Career Center? Or, because I guess I'm wondering, like, how do students and families figure out that we have all of the options that you talked about? So Career Center, the JROTC, STEM and STEAM and all the things, like how do we, I guess, communicate that with families and then get the kids plugged in where they need to?
So that's an ongoing challenge that we continuously try to improve upon. Callie and Sierra have done a great job. They really have just done an amazing job. Every week they're asking us for things that we want to highlight, make sure that everybody's aware of. It's interesting that you asked me that, because I have gotten to where every time I meet with somebody, I always ask them, because they always want us to share about what we have, and I always ask them, how do you find out about information? Because we want to tell you however you are able to hear it. And so that's just an ongoing thing that we're continuously working on. We're excited for the new website, definitely. But in addition to that, a lot of it is word of mouth. And that's where honestly, every time I get a chance to talk to somebody, I tell them everything we have and ask them to tell their neighbors. But we do try to do it in an organized fashion also.
For the high school programs in particular, being a middle school principal, each one of the programs that Zeb and Shauna talked about, we would host information sessions or nights, during the day for our students, and then we would do stuff at night for our parents. But so of course we try to do things, our announcements or our promotions through our students. I mean, again, I think our high school friends with Zeb and Shauna can talk about when we do our tours with all sophomores. They attend a tour through CMU Tech. And so, of course, we try through our students first, but we know that we have more work to do to ensure that our parents know and understand what all of our options are here in the district.
I would say, just from personal experience, so I've had two of my kids go through ICAP. So my oldest son, who graduated in 2022, we did the tour at WCCC, because that's what it was called at that time. And there were a fair amount of students there. When I went 2 years later with my daughter, it was standing room only. I mean, so I think what's happened, I think obviously whatever communication we're doing is working. And there were a ton of students and families there for the tours that night. And I just feel like personally as a parent, like, I think because we've gotten a little more diligent, maybe with ICAP or organized, whichever it is, that has really helped me from the parent standpoint kind of guide my kids into that. Because one went the forensics route, and so the counselor found some really great ways for him to experience doing some, criminal justice kind of things that he could do in high school. And then the other one wanted to do marketing, and then obviously found some spots at CMU Tech. So I feel like from the parent standpoint, taking my board member hat off, it's become a lot more clear and easier over the last couple of years. So kudos to whatever you're doing, because I think it's working, and I hear more people talking about it. And I would also give kudos to Dr. Hill and his teams as they go out. I know they talk about it a lot so that people can understand what options we have. I am always impressed to find out more and more things that we do at the Career Center, like the floral arrangements and all the things that I think are really neat that we're bringing those things to kids.
One of the other activities that Sherry and her team do is the career fairs, and making sure, again, just focusing on y'all are going pro in something. So let's figure it out, what you like, what you want, what are your interests. And many of our high schools have been hosting their own career fairs as well. But I think the earlier we start, so it's great that we've got an elementary that is starting and looking at the ICAP, because ask any kid, it doesn't matter what age what do you want to be when you grow up? They all have an answer. And so how do we capitalize on their wants, wishes, and dreams and ensure that they know what it takes to be able to reach that career goal? Now, what they want to be in elementary may not be the same as middle and high, but at least we've had that opportunity to expose them through internships, through our career fairs, everything that we're doing to ensure that it's something that they want. Do they really? Yes, a college education and post-secondary school is a requirement now. They're going to have some education, but how are they going to pay for that? Do they want to take that sort of money out? Sometimes it is an investment and they need to take school loans because they know and understand that's what they want to do. But if it's not what they want to do, we're hoping through the experiences that they have through our district that they have a better idea.
I think it's great. I've seen a big shift in the last couple of years, just so I think it's more robust, and I think parents are catching on. So any other comments or questions? I am really thrilled to see how we continue this thread of programs that we know people are attracted to, like DIA, IB, STEAM, and STEM, and where we're missing those pieces. And so I am really excited that we're exploring how we can fill in those gaps, like either at an elementary school level or a middle school level where we need to have some of that programming. And I think that's really, because, I know from a parent standpoint, if you start your kid in a certain program, you would hope that they could follow that through, like it comes to fruition. And so, like DIA, I know has been a big one because it's like it just stops at 8th grade. And I think at that point, we've heard from a lot of families that they'd love to have that then robust at a high school level, because that they've just spent all of this time from kindergarten through 8th grade doing that, and now we want them to really take that and drill into it. And the same with IB and STEM and STEAM and all of those, that if the kids have kind of started on that track, that for them to continue in those things if they really are enjoying it, because I think that's the way when kids aren't interested in school, and those might be the things that they actually do show up for school to do.
There is a strong family parent component to the ICAP and to the platform that we are, School Links, that we're using as a district, and parents can have their own access, their own password, so that they can see, and you can apply for colleges through this platform. You can look at your transcripts. You can have a transcript review. And so it's a strong family, parent, guardian component. And so if we can get that out, so we can get our parents more involved in what their students are thinking or wanting to do after they graduate and leave our system.
Well done.
Thank you. Remember to fill out the survey, everybody, because it is important to us.
We'll be pushing that out to everybody to get all the feedback we can.
Thank you. We
everybody
appreciate
for your
that.
time this evening. We appreciate you all. All right, now we have to talk about future bond and mill levies because we have to pay for all of that. So, so Dr. Hill, you get to, well, that's what my kids tell me. So.
So, and I know Mel and Clint are going to join me to add to things that I mess up on or answer any questions. I do want to point out, I asked ChatGPT to design a school district of the future, and that's what that picture looks like, which is crazy to me. I was going to make a joke that it has a pool on there, but maybe that was too soon. So with that.
Too soon.
Too soon, sorry.
Too soon.
Oh, good.
Hope nobody heard that.
One of my favorite things about AI is you can tell when it's fake because, like, look at the sports field. Like, what are those lines? So that's obviously not what our school district is going to look like.
It looks like stacked Tupperware.
Yeah. So in all seriousness, we do want to start having a conversation about potential future bond asks and mill levy override as well. And so I'm going to walk y'all through a few slides tonight. One, to talk about bonds, and some of this may feel like a little elementary if you know a lot about bonds and mill levy overrides, but we thought it was important to help educate folks that maybe aren't as aware of what those dollars actually do, to actually go through and spend some time talking about those. And then we'll talk a little bit about our current capital needs in the district, why we might want to explore looking at a bond now, what would be on a potential bond even in 2024, and then again talk about mill levy overrides a little bit, specifically that 2017 mill levy override, and then talk about next steps. So with that, when we talk about bonds, first off, when we ask the question, what is a bond, just so folks understand, a bond is a type of debt issued by local school districts to fund educational facilities and infrastructure. It requires voter approval and is repaid over time with interest, usually through property taxes. So anytime we need dollars for capital needs, we go out for bonds. So why go for bonds? Again, school districts go out for bonds to raise significant capital for large-scale projects that their regular budgets cannot cover. These projects typically include building new schools, renovating and expanding existing facilities, updating technology, and making safety improvements, all aimed at enhancing the educational environment. And then we get this question sometimes, well, why not just use the funding that you already get from the state? And so School Finance Act funding for Colorado school districts does not provide funding for major capital needs. And I would say that's in other states as well, meaning districts must generate the funds by taking out debt through bonds. So we don't, so Grand Junction High School is a good example, $115 million ask to the public for a $145 million project. We don't get to go to the state of Colorado and say we need $145 million and they give it to us. We have to find other ways to bring those dollars in, and you do it through bonds. Y'all just stop me if I mess something up. Okay. So what do bonds pay for? So school bonds can pay for a wide range of capital expenditures related to educational infrastructure. Again, this includes constructing new schools, renovating and expanding existing facilities, and then upgrading technology and equipment, improving security measures, and making necessary repairs. The funds are generally allocated for long-term investments in the physical and technological infrastructure of the educational environment. What do they not pay for? So school bond dollars cannot be used for operational or routine maintenance expenses. This includes salaries for teachers and staff, utility costs, classroom supplies, textbooks, and other day-to-day operational expenses. Bond funds are specifically earmarked for, again, capital improvements, long-term investments in the school district infrastructure. And we'll talk about mill levy overrides later and how those can fund some of those other items. But the main thing here is bonds can't pay for everything. And then when you talk about how long do they take to pay off, so the time it takes to pay off school bonds can vary widely, typically ranging from 10 to 30 years, depending on the specific terms of the bond issue. The maturity length of a school bond is determined at the time of issuance and depends on the size of the bond, the interest rate, and the repayment schedule set forth by the issuing school district or local government. The goal is to match the repayment period to the useful life of the improvements funded by the bond to ensure that future taxpayers who also benefit from the facilities share in those payments. And so we'll talk a little bit about some of the previous bonds as well that we have been paying off over time. So, and that's what this next slide is. So I know it's a lot on the screen, and I'm actually going to pull mine up so I can read it. So we have, since 1996, we've successfully passed 4 bond projects in our school district. So over the last, almost 30 years, we've passed 4. So in 96, we went out for $44 million, and I won't go through everything on there, but it had a lot of different buildings that it was going to fix and upgrade, and also use for a lot of different reasons. But and I can share this with the board, and we'll upload this onto the website later as well. But we did pass a bond in 96 for $44 million. We went back in 2004 and passed a bond for $109 million. And that actually included replacement of some schools as well. That's why that number was a little bit higher. So it replaced Book Cliff Middle School, Career Center facility, and it also helped to fund the current 8-9 school building that will be used for Fruita Middle School moving forward. And then in 2017, we went out for $118.5 million, and that also replaced Orchard Mesa Middle School, and then had upgrades to a lot of our other buildings as well that's on that list. And it added a gym to DIA and Palisade High School as well. So there were some facility additions through that one. And then, of course, I think most folks are familiar with the last bond that we went out for in 2021 for $115 million, and that was to replace Grand Junction High School. I didn't put the whole bond language on there because it had a lot of other information about what buildings would stay and all that, but essentially it was all for Grand Junction High School. As a reminder, I like to remind the folks on that, we did only ask for $115, even though it was a $145 million project, and that was because we offset the remaining costs through a BEST grant for $10 million, and then about $19.5 million in funds that we had left over from other bond projects that had come in under budget, or that we had offset through other BEST grants that we got from the state. And BEST is it's money that's provided through marijuana tax dollars, but it's a very small chunk of money that a lot of districts fight over every year. And so we get that question a lot too, why don't you just ask for more BEST grants? There's districts across the state that put in requests every year, and many get denied and some get awarded, and you're just lucky if you do. And so we've been fortunate to get a BEST grant for the Junction project, and we got one for Orchard Mesa Middle School, I believe. And there may have been others as well, but you have to put a whole application process together to get those funds.
Can I
Yes.
interrupt you for just a moment? Is Monument Ridge in there somewhere? Where did that one fall in?
So my understanding, oh, you
That one was paid from the 2017 bond. It was with some of the additional savings that we had in that one.
So in the 118.5, that also included Monument Ridge. So we basically got a new middle school and the new.
Yep. And then those gyms were the other large.
I just needed to figure out where that.
And then I would just add on the BEST grant, it's usually a matching grant. So while they would fund a small portion of it, they wouldn't be funding the whole entire building, and then districts would be responsible for going to the voters. And often that's a reason that, or that helps bonds get approved if the district can say, hey, we've received this BEST grant for 10 million, we need your help to get the rest of it, versus asking for the whole thing. Because then if it doesn't pass, then that money goes back to the state.
Well, and I think we should specify too that that's the state marijuana tax. That is not a local marijuana tax, because now that we have that locally, and I think the state was more optimistic that we were going to have more funds come through the state marijuana tax, but that didn't happen. And so, like you said, Dr. Hill, it's more limited than I think they had hoped. So I just don't want people thinking that local marijuana money is coming to the school district, because that is not the case.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to piggyback off what Mel said, as we've been talking about, and we'll talk about later in the presentation, potential for the next bond because of the matching dollars aspect of it. Colleen, who's our owner's rep on the Junction High School project, but also has helped us write BEST grants in the past that have been successful. She's talked to us about that a lot of the districts that are going out right now for BEST grants, that if they can secure those funds ahead of time, they have a better chance of getting the funds. So if we pass a bond and then go out later and ask for dollars to offset some of the costs from those bond projects, we have a better success rate. And then again, we can use those dollars for other priority needs within the district. The other thing to point out too is, and I know in the past we've done premium bonds, and that was a topic of discussion even when I got here in 2019. So 2021 bond we didn't do premium bonds, but we did do premium bonds in some of the past bond projects. And through that did allow us to be able to spend some of those dollars on other projects, projects coming in under budget, but then also having some of those dollars from the premium bonds to be able to pay for things like a new elementary school. So we don't have that with the 2021 bond. If we come in under budget or anything on that project, it goes back into paying the debt off quicker.
Do you want to explain what a premium bond is versus the 20, or maybe?
Mel does.
I'm just saying, just for people maybe watching or in the audience that don't.
I would say the easiest way, because it is a pretty complex thing, is just that a premium bond is really dictated by the market. And I think that's one thing that people in the community don't understand, is that if you go to market with bonds that aren't attractive to investors based on their interest rates that they're going to be earning, they're not going to sell. And so the 2017, definitely there was a strong market for premium bonds, meaning that investors would earn more on those coupons, and then we also get the additional proceeds. Not all markets are the same, and so that might be a consideration too, if and when we go again. I know, just for example, the 2021 and 2022, I think the amount of premium bonds that would have been available would have been about half of what was in 2017. And so it really is dictated on whether there's a rising interest rate environment or a decreasing interest rate environment. And so those are some of the other factors in that.
And I would also say we're not the only ones that have gone out for premium bonds in the past. There's other entities within the community that have done it as well. So it's not just a school district thing. So with that, so current capital needs. So where are we at currently with our facilities? So it's not the official name yet, but D51 and 50 is what I keep calling it until it sticks. But that's our long-range facility planning process we're going through right now. And again, ideally, it's going to create a blueprint for us for our facilities over the next 25 years, how we want to address some of these capital needs. And so based on that work, we'll have scores for facility condition, scores, educational adequacy scores, and then also how well we're utilizing the buildings we currently have. And so that process will wrap up soon, and we'll have that long-range facility plan that's comprehensive for our whole school district that will help guide us for the next 25 years. Just some facts. The average age of our schools right now is 48 years, which may not seem like a lot for a building. I always encourage people to think about the amount of people that are walking through that building each and every year. So this isn't just like any other building in the community. You have hundreds, thousands of kids walking through those buildings, staff, community members. We have communities use our buildings, and so they get a lot of use. So average age is 48 years. The oldest school building currently was built in 1925, and then our newest one, obviously, with Monument Ridge was 2020. And then we've also been through this process, Clint is spearheading, we've been looking at our admin buildings as well, because we don't want to lose sight of the fact that we also have capital needs in those buildings. And so the average year of our admin buildings is 78 years, with the oldest one being 1903. I think everybody can guess which one that is. Jen and her team have to go to it every day. And then the newest one was built in 76. And so our admin buildings are aging as well. So let's talk about the costs for deferred maintenance costs. We've asked HCM, who's doing the long-range facility plan right now, to run some numbers on some estimated costs on what it would take to update our buildings and take care of needs within our school district. And so right now, they're estimating in $2024, so that's today, if we were to do all this work today, so it's just going to become more expensive over time. But if we were to do all the work today, over the next 10 years, we have about $582 million in needs, and that's just to cover what they qualify as priority 1 through 4 repairs and maintenance. And that would be able to get the conditions of our buildings up to like a tier A. Remember when they showed y'all in the past the tiers? That would be to get our school buildings up to a tier A. So $582 million, and that's not anything extra. That's just those repairs and maintenance needs in all of our buildings. And then they're estimating that there's about an additional $100 million of what we're calling enhancements that would be needed over the next 10 years. And again, that's today's dollars to take care of things like safety and security upgrades, learning environment upgrades, and then the building needs that we have at the high schools. We've been talking about Central for a while. We've also talked about Fruita Monument High School. And so throw on top of that 582 about another $100 million in those upgrades. That's a lot of money that we would need to take care of our buildings over time. And so some of the additional factors just to think through. One, again, the school finance formula does not provide the allocation for capital needs. So we have to support any upgrades that we do in our buildings through using some of that PPR or voter-approved bonds and mill levy override. So we are actually having to use some of our dollars from the state to take care of capital projects. So $1.2 million is budgeted annually in capital projects fund, supported with the general fund dollars. And then we get $1 million a year budgeted through that 2017 mill levy override that we're very appreciative to our community for passing back in 2017. And so you think about, back up to that number at the top, $582 million. We have $2.2 million a year just to spend on capital needs. So there isn't a way to take care of all those needs internally with just the dollars that we do get. We have to go out for things like bonds. So, and we want to be very cautious with when we go out and ask for tax increases. We understand that our community wants to see where those dollars are going to go and that they're going to be spent wisely. And so we don't want to just go out and willy-nilly and ask for anything. And that's why we're going through this long-range facility planning process to have that roadmap. But I just thought this was important for folks to understand. We can't take care of $582 million or $682 million worth of need just from our dollars that we have internally from general fund and mill levy override.
I would also add that to that $582 million, that every year that we move down that 10-year path, there's a 6% escalation every year on top of that.
Yeah, it was hard for the guys from HCM to give us a hard number because they're like, well, this is this is estimates, and as Clint said, it's going to change every year. So, even the Junction Project's a good example of that. Passed in '21, it's going to open in '24, and a lot of work has happened in those OAC meetings and to try to figure out how to keep it under budget. And so, just the cost of construction has gone up.
Can I, just for the community's benefit as much as anything, and I'm gonna throw this out there, Clint, if you've just got no real idea, then fair enough. But what is an average roof repair or replace cost for one of our buildings? I mean, I'm hoping maybe we've done one somewhere in the recent past.
That might be an
If you-
Eddie question, but yeah, it depends on the size of the roof. I don't know
Yeah, of
what's the
course,
last one
of
that we've
course.
done, Eddie.
I was just wondering, yeah, Eddie, is there one that? Yeah.
Just for a
So
roof.
just for Fruta 8-9, which took us 2 years to do because we probably couldn't do it all, or else we wouldn't have any budget left over to
Correct.
anybody else, right? $1 million.
Yeah,
$1 million for just one. And how many buildings do we have?
47, 46, 47.
47. And those are school buildings, or does that include admin? Over 40 school buildings. So I'm just trying to give the community kind of a little bit of a breakdown as to
And that's just
how
roofs.
quickly, that's just roofs, yeah. We're not talking about all the other big ticket items that we have to maintain, and that's, a replacement or whatever, but we've still got ongoing maintenance for every single building every year, so, thank you.
Yeah, and I should give a shout out to our maintenance folks and also our custodial crews at all the schools, because they've done a really great job of taking care of these aging buildings. And so we appreciate all the work that they're doing. It's just that you get to a certain point where some things have to be replaced. Ideally, you're not having to replace whole school buildings like we're having to do at Junction all the time. You can do upgrades to the buildings to extend the life, but everything reaches its end of life. And so, and we're seeing that now with the amount of needs that are popping up for us. So why are we even having this discussion right now? So we have an opportunity to go for what we're calling a no tax increase bond in 2024. And the reason why is that the 2004 bond debt will be paid off on time on December 1 of 2024. And so that will actually reduce our annual debt payments from 21 million to 18 million. And it would allow us to take out an additional 190 million in bonds without increasing the current bond mill levy. So, so that's how the phrasing that I've been using is it's a no tax increase bond, because essentially taxpayers wouldn't see any difference in the taxes they're paying towards that, because we'd be replacing that debt. And you really only have an opportunity to do that right now in 2024, which is why it's on the right. So this is the year that debt would be paid off, allowing us the opportunity to restructure the debt schedule for additional bond dollars without increasing taxes. If we do miss this opportunity, whether we don't go for it or we go for it and it doesn't pass, we would miss that opportunity for a no tax increase bond to address the capital needs. And then the next opportunity we'd have to be able to do this wouldn't be until 2041. So there's a window, and it's this fall. And so that's why we're having that discussion now. You could run. You
Joke,
could
but
take
Jose
time
and
off
I
the
are
board and
probably
then run again, so
literally
y'all
not
could
really
be
gonna
back.
get to worry about
So, and I don't know, Mel, if there's anything you want to add to that, or okay.
Well, so let me clarify. So in 2041, we'd be able to go out for a no tax increase bond, but if obviously we have needs in between, we're going to have to ask for a tax increase.
Yes, and if we don't go for it in 2024, then taxes would decrease. It's pretty minimal impact to individual community members, but overall as a district, it's a large amount that we could use towards these capital needs. And so if we miss this window of opportunity, then if we went for one in 25 or 26, we would be asking for a tax increase. And you could end up asking for a tax increase just to get you back to the tax level that you were at before. And so that's why this opens this window of opportunity for us in 24, just to say, can we continue to pay on this debt and basically free up $190 million that we could put towards some of those capital needs. Back to that $582 million in needs, we could knock out a chunk of those capital needs with those dollars. So I keep looking at Mel in case I butcher anything.
If we do that now, it just makes sense that we'd save ourselves significantly by maintaining those buildings the way that they need to be and not continuing to deteriorate to the point that now we're looking at more replacement in order to make it worth the money that you would spend in the repairs.
Right. Yeah, and that's a lot of, and I know some of our board members are on the long-range planning committee, but that's some of the conversations that have been had is, what can we take care of in phase one? And I'll have a slide on that in a second. But we also will have other phases of when we'll have to go out and do some additional asks. But if we could do it in a way that is structured, that is very transparent and clear to the community of when we might be coming to ask, what it would be going towards, then ideally we'd have a runway to be able to make those asks, and the community will support that. I think it also would be important, and I'm getting way down the road on this, but the language in the ballot to be able to, right now, the way it's written for the 2021 bond, which I understood why we did it, was any leftover funds would go to paying it off quicker. Well, if we have a really clear 25-year plan, it seems like it would make sense to say if we come in under budget on any of the projects, or if we get best grants and it offsets costs, could we not just use those dollars and then go down to the next tier of needs in the school district, because we have $582 million worth of it. So those are things we'll have to talk about if we pursue this and we put bond language together moving forward. So, but yeah, this is why we have the opportunity right now, is because of we've been paying off that bond debt on time, over time, and we have this opportunity that's going to open up this fall for us. So let's talk about what could potentially be on a bond for 2024. So just want to point out, first off, we haven't finalized the long-range facility plan yet, and so that we still have another meeting next week with the committee, and that committee is made up of teachers, family members, staff, senior level staff, principals, board members, and so we'll come back together and have one more meeting to talk about creating these phases that we might want to move forward with future bond projects, and then they'll come back and present to the board in April when we have that plan done. The current proposal that they've been discussing at the last meeting, HCM presented 3 potential pathways, for lack of a better term. So there was an A, a B, and a C, and the committee came up with a plan D. And so they took some pieces from the other 3 and said, we like this better. And so if that were to move forward, and again, it's not finalized, the things that we might be looking for in phase 1, which would be a bond for 2024, would be, 1, there's a real clear need to have a balanced approach to improving all schools. So how do we take that 190 and try to spread it as much as we can? And part of that was deferring any school replacements to later phases. So the committee didn't have a lot of interest in scrape and replace on this first round, but that will have to come at some point down the road for some schools, but they didn't want to prioritize that for this first phase. This would address priority 1 and 2 repairs and maintenance at elementary, middle, and high schools. So again, we'd be able to spread those dollars across all levels of our schools to take care of some of those priority 1 and 2 needs. It also would address safety and security upgrades at all levels as well, which we know was an important focus from the committee. And then there would be some what they're calling learning environment upgrades, which when they're here, you can ask more questions about specifics on that. But specifically at the elementary schools for this first phase, being able to do some elementary and middle schools for the learning environment upgrades. There was also a question around being able to do some special education renovations at the elementary schools, having the opportunity to be able to do that. The rooms that are currently used, are they actually meeting the needs of our students on IEPs? And so you could have some opportunities to renovate some of those rooms. And then the last piece would be to try to address facility needs specifically at Central and Fruita Monument High School. And again, I won't get in the weeds tonight on what those would be, but those have definitely been priorities for the district to be able to take care of those. So there's a potential to have all these things in that first bond package in November with that $190 million to try to take care of a wide range of needs versus just focusing on one school or two schools. And so again, they'll update the board at the work session in April on that plan. So we're going to switch gears just a little bit and talk about mill levy overrides. That was bonds, capital needs. Let's talk about mill levy overrides for a second. So same questions. What is a mill levy override? It's a voter-approved property tax increase beyond state set revenue limits specifically allocated for local school district funding. This additional revenue is used for operational expenses such as teacher salaries, instructional materials, and maintenance rather than capital improvements or infrastructure. And so why would you go out for an MLO? So again, we go out for them to increase the operating revenues beyond the limits set by the existing property tax rates. Unlike bonds, which are for capital expenditures, again, it provides these type of things like teacher salaries and materials. Same questions before, why wouldn't you just use the dollars that the state gives you? So these overrides are necessary when the district needs more funds to maintain or improve day-to-day school operations, programs, and overall quality of education, especially when state funding is insufficient or has been reduced. So voter approval is required for these overrides, demonstrating community support for investing more in local education. So these are dollars that would, again, stay with us. They don't go back to the state to be redistributed. And just, again, I know we talk about this a lot, but to highlight, we currently are funded at the 174th out of 178 school districts in the state, so we're one of the lowest funded in per pupil revenue. And then when you compare our mill levy overrides to our comparable districts, we're the lowest. So so we're at a disadvantage when it comes to that. So that's why you would want to go out and ask for mill levy overrides from your community to say, state funding's not adequate, we need additional support. And so we ask for those mill levy overrides. So what do they pay for again? Mill levy overrides can pay for various operational expenses that are not typically covered by capital focused funding like bonds. Essentially, mill levy overrides provide schools with flexibility to allocate funds where they are most needed for the operation and maintenance of the educational environment. And these are just some examples that I already kind of highlighted in the last screen in the middle. I won't go through all those. And then again, what can you not pay for? You can't pay for things like new school buildings, major expansion of existing facilities, large-scale renovation construction projects. So that's why in 2017 and in 2004, I'm trying to think of all the years that, 96 also, the district actually went out for a bond and a mill levy override at the same time. And because the bond dollars paid for the capital needs, the mill levy override paid for other needs that are listed on the screen. The only time we didn't do that recently was in 2021. We just did a bond. And that's what's on the screen. So 1996, the district went out for a mill levy override. It's a flat amount, so it's a permanent mill levy override, so it does not sunset, and it's a flat amount, so it doesn't, does it adjust for inflation or it doesn't? It does, yeah, adjust for inflation. So approved at 2.5 mil, currently adjusted for inflation at 5.9. And then in 2004, it also was permanent. It's a flat amount, and that one doesn't adjust for inflation, right? Okay, so that one stays at 4 million no matter what. So it has not adjusted for inflation over time. And then in 2017, that was the last time we went out for a mill levy override. That one does have a sunset. It runs out in 2027. It's a flat amount that does not adjust for inflation, and it's $6.5 million. And I'll talk on the next screen about what that actually pays for. I think it's telling when you look at how things adjust for inflation, just how much more need there is. And when we don't adjust for inflation, that then we're falling further and further behind over time. So, and then I won't read this last box here, but basically how long they last depends on whether or not you put sunsets on them over time. So the 2017 mill, I just want to focus on that one because that one does sunset. So what does it currently fund? So when we went out for the 2017 mill levy override, the things it funds are 5 additional student contact days, 1 professional learning day for our staff. I've mentioned before, it provides $1 million a year in capital needs, and that's almost half of our capital budget for the year, our capital improvement budget. It also provides tech positions, curriculum updates, And then our charter schools, our in-district charter schools also receive those dollars as well because they are District 51 schools. That doesn't go to schools outside of the district. And so 2017, I wasn't here at the time, but my assumption is they got together and said, these are the things that we need to prioritize. How much is this going to cost? $6.5 million, okay. So what does that cost today in 2024? It's actually currently to pay for those things, it's costing about $7.4 million. So the cost has gone up. That mill levy override does not adjust for inflation, so we're not closing that gap. And so current budget is 7.4 million with less buying power in the curriculum and maintenance categories than originally intended. Also, we have one fewer technology position than originally planned to stay within the budget constraints. So flat dollar amount MLO has not allowed for the maintenance of funding levels in real terms as the cost of goods and services increases over time. So a good example of that is the 5 additional student contact days. Essentially what you're paying for is to have teachers and staff there to take care of our kids. Well, I'm super proud of the work of the district and the board to focus on getting teacher salaries up, but as you do that, that means those 5 days become more expensive. And so I think that one alone increase from 2017 to now, it's like $900,000 increase because of that. And so a big chunk of that 1.1 million, or well, I guess it's not a whole $1 million more, but a big chunk of it is really the salary increases over time to provide those 5 additional student contact days. And then again, we've had to pull some things out to be able to stay within our means there. So what happens if the sunsets, when the 2017 MLO sunsets in 2027? The general fund budget will not be able to support these needs. So we'll have to have some, if it doesn't continue, we'd have to have some tough conversations about what do we reduce. So that's what this talks about. What would be lost? We'd have 5 fewer student contact days, reduction in staff pay due to fewer days of work. So again, teacher contracts would decrease from 188 days to 183, and that's equal to about a 3% reduction in salary. We obviously don't want that. And so we wouldn't have funding for curriculum updates and the related training for those educators. We would have loss of in-school technology positions supporting teachers and students with devices. And then that capital budget, again, the capital improvement budget would be cut almost in half if we lose that $1 million a year. So it's important that we, at some point, go out to our community and say, we need this to continue. And we'll talk about that in a second as well, because that would be a lot of things we would lose as a district if it went away. And our staff would feel a big impact, and our students would as well by having 5 less contact days. So when can we go out for this? We could do it in 2024, we could do it in 25, 26, or 27. After that, though, that you miss your opportunity. And we did confirm that we could go for it in fall of 27 at the latest and still be able to have that continuation of funds. And so I just jotted down some of the options that we've talked about for the MLO. So we could go out and say we want to extend it for another 10 years and don't change anything with it, keep it a flat amount, don't have it adjust for inflation, and then it's no tax increase. It's just the same $6.5 million, but it has another 10-year sunset. You could extend it without the sunset. So say don't have a 10-year sunset on it, but don't change anything else. So it's no tax increase, but it just continues beyond the 10 years. You could also extend it for another 10 years and have it adjust for inflation. So don't take the sunset off of it, but change the language to say we want it to adjust for inflation. That would be a tax increase applied to it, and we could run the numbers on that. You could also extend it with no sunset and have it adjust for inflation. So take the sunset off, have it adjust for inflation over time. And then the last option we could explore is that you actually increase the ask over what we asked for in 2017. I think we all know that we have needs, and the 2017 mill levy override dollars are not providing enough for those needs. But there's also a risk associated with that because we want to make sure we continue the 2017 mill levy override, and we don't want to lose those things that are listed up here. So there could be a risk associated with if you go out and try to ask for more. So those are conversations we're going to have as well before fall of 2027. So next steps, where are we at right now? We do have a small group that's been currently meeting to talk about all these things. We wanted tonight to be able to have an opportunity to have a conversation with the board publicly and the community to start just having this discussion, especially if it's something we want to explore for fall of '24. And so no decisions have been made yet. I want to be very clear about that. We have not said we're going out for a bond this fall. We haven't said we're going out for a mill levy override this fall. We're just exploring it. And so some of the things that we are doing and we will need to do, first, we've been engaging with the polling company that we've used in the past to finalize some polling questions that we could kind of get that temperature of our community and see if where folks are at with potentially going for a mill levy a bond or even a mill levy override. I think that I would say the bigger focus right now is the bond because of the fact that we have that opportunity for a no tax increase, but the mill levy override question is still there as well. We also are engaging with the other municipalities to explore whether or not they're going to put something on the ballot. I've talked to 3 of the 4 already, and have gotten feedback from them on whether or not they're going to go for anything in the fall. And so we'll discuss that at the next meeting that we have with this smaller group, because the idea behind that is we don't want to overcrowd the ballot and hurt other entities as well. And then we'd have to make a decision on whether we want to go for a bond alone, a bond and an MLO, or don't go at all in 2024. So those are, again, decisions we haven't made yet. If we do decide to go for it in 2024, we'd have to form a campaign committee, chairs, start fundraising, because unfortunately it costs money to campaign for these things. But we've had great teams in the past, and so we would do that as well. And then we'd start doing the messaging to the community and engagement of stakeholders around the need for the bond and a mill if we did that as well. I just put a date up there that I thought was important for the board. We don't have to, we have until July 26th before we have to inform the county clerk and recorder if we're going to actually participate in the election. So we have time to make that decision. What we don't have time on is if we decide, hey, we want to do this, that really kickstarts a lot for having to do, again, all those things around campaigning and fundraising and getting the word out. And so you don't necessarily want to wait until the summer to start doing that. So tonight was just an opportunity again to raise some awareness around that. So I'll quit talking, and I'll ask, did I leave anything out to Clinton Mill? Okay. It's because they wrote all the stuff on the screen. So, and then if there's any questions for any of us, we're happy to answer them.
I have one. Of the options that you looked at, which ones do you favor the most, and the reason?
When you talk about options, are you saying for the mill levy override or for the
Yes.
bond?
For the mill levy override.
So I want to be clear that I don't speak for the school district as a whole. I would say the number one priority is how do we continue to fund the things that are being funded through the 2017 mill levy override. And so I wouldn't want to do anything that would jeopardize that. But we have to be realistic in saying that that isn't keeping up with the needs of our school district. And I wish I had put the slide that I've used way too many times that shows our comparable districts and how much we get per pupil, and then the mill levy overrides, just how far behind we are. I know last year when we were throwing numbers around, if we were just funded at the average of our comparable districts, it would be $24 million more a year that we would receive. So to put that into perspective, school districts that we compare ourselves to are getting much more funding per student than we are through state dollars and through their local mill levy overrides, that is creating advantages for their students that our students don't have. And so it's hard to say, let's just go for re-upping, for lack of a better term, the 2017 mill, but don't go for anything else, because we know there's other needs. But I just don't want to jeopardize what's in that 2017 mill levy override too. So that's some of the conversations we've had. Do we go after the 2017 mill levy override, whether that's removing the sunset or extending it for 10 more years, and then go out later for an additional mill levy override ask? If you combine them both together at one time, if people say, I don't want my taxes to go up, so I'm going to vote no on it, well, then we lose those things. So that was my roundabout way of not answering your question, and saying, we need more dollars it's unfortunately there's politics and strategy involved as well, and you got to think about what do you and what's the appetite of our community. I should say that too. It's not just politics and strategy. It's where's the appetite and what can folks afford.
I just wanted to know, because I think when we have the discussion as a board, I want to know which ones, the three of you decide what option and the reasons why you feel those options are the best ones. Because I think that's critical for us to be able to make a decision also.
And I should have also said in my rambling that it'll be telling when we do the polling, because most of the questions that this is the longest part of the polling process, is coming up with the right questions. So we're still throwing around ideas, but most of the questions will be geared towards the bond because of the fact that there's an opportunity in '24 to do the no tax increase bond. But we have talked about doing some questions that would just get a temperature of the community around the mill levy override, even if it's just for the purpose of educating people on the things that I talk, because not everybody's going to watch this board meeting tonight. And so starting to get folks to talk about what's in that 2017 mill, and then seeing if it's something that there would be an appetite to go for as well. And then if we get a lot of feedback that says go for both, then we would have that discussion. If it's not, then we would maybe push off the mill, because we do have some time on that one, but we only have 4 more years. So.
I think what I get concerned about in looking at all of this is, while I feel like we've made some great strides in paying our staff and teachers more, that money obviously has to come from somewhere. And I'm concerned that we as a district might be limited in what we're going to be able to offer, especially when these things aren't even keeping up, pace with where things are currently, for cost for these things. And so I worry about what ability we will have to make competitive teacher pay, for future years, and to continue on with the continuity of curriculum and resources that everyone's worked so hard, on the last several years. And so those things are all, benefits that are directly for our students. And in those resource adoptions, like Dr. Hill said, is also the professional learning component for our educators. And so it's a development for them as well. So it can get pretty sticky. And while I, wish our state would fund us where they said they would, that's just not the reality, and we've had to make the adjustments. And it's kind of a fine needle to thread. I think the no tax increase bond, we're at a kind of a sweet spot to be able to do that, and it would help obviously enhance our school buildings, and that would be no tax increase to the community. So if we're not able to do that exact thing until 2041, I mean, that's, we're not going to be able to wait till 2041, obviously, to have that ask. And so if we could do it with a no tax increase, that makes sense. But I do know that even from the moment that at least the 3 of us were elected on the board, the 2017 mill has constantly come up, because we know it provides a lot, safety, security, some capital needs, obviously those 5 days for our students to be in school. And if you talk to any teacher, they love having that time with kids, and obviously part of that is it gives our teachers extra pay. So while we've been in the midst of having to consolidate schools, I would really hate to be in that position of how are we going to navigate decreasing 5 instructional days, taking pay away from teachers. I mean, that will be very, very difficult, and not just difficult for this board or district to deal with, but the ramifications of what it will do for our students and our communities and our families.
Yeah, the hard part about the work that's been done around teacher salary increases, we've got starting teachers up to 47, and it was 37 a few years ago, and I pulled up the numbers because our average teacher salary right now is 65.5, and it's even up from the year before, from 59.8. So we've been able over the last couple of years to do these increases through really great work of our finance department and being able to utilize some one-time dollars to offset some things. But other districts have been doing that as well. And so while we're gaining ground, they're also gaining ground. And so then it just puts us right back to where we were before. I think the only district that, when we were looking at our comparables, that doesn't pay higher than us is Montrose. Is that right? But everybody else is. And so a lot of districts you saw last fall actually go out for mill levy overrides specifically for salary increases for teachers because they don't have the funds in the general fund to be able to continue to offer these type of increases. So, I think those are discussions we'll have to have, whether that means we try to find a way to get the 2017 mill levy override renewed and maybe removing the sunset, and then we go out later for something else. I don't know, but yeah, at some point, I think districts are realizing like we don't have these opportunities we've had over the last few years to be able to do these large increases, and so you have to go out and ask your local community to be able to continue to support those teacher salary increases. And we've tried to do a lot internally, but at some point the dollars run out, and then. I think the other thing that's going to be, just put it out there, that's going to be a challenge is we're still having the discussion around elementary school closures at a time when we might also be asking for a bond. And I think a couple things with that. One, messaging is going to be really important if we decide to go out for a bond, because those are two separate things that overlap though. So school closure discussions have been about underutilization of buildings, inability to resource our buildings properly because of low numbers and not being able to staff them properly. It also impacts whether we can continue to do salary increases and things like that, or are we going to subsidize staffing in buildings? The bond has to do with the fact that we have aging facilities that have real needs, and so part of school closure also has to do with we're not going to continue to invest bond dollars into schools that maybe we don't need in the end. If we have, for lack of a better term, too many buildings, why would you go put millions of dollars into updating a building if you actually don't need that many buildings? And so they do overlap in that sense, and I hope our community would hear that, to say we're trying to be strategic with if we have to reduce the number of school buildings, it's one, so that we can help with things like salaries and paying teachers better, but also not continue to invest in these older buildings that we don't need. But then we need bond dollars to then do the upgrades to the facilities that then remain. So just closing schools but not asking for a bond means that you've reduced the number of schools. Maybe it helps staff the rest of the schools better, but you didn't do anything to actually update the facility needs. And I don't want people to think that, well, if we don't pass a bond, then that means that schools wouldn't close. Well, no, because these are two separate things. But again, they do overlap with one another. So I think that's going to be a challenge, as well as messaging and helping people to understand the intricacies of those two things.
It is two separate things, but the money all comes from the same place essentially, and it's the same pile of money. And by being responsible and closing some of the schools or consolidating some of the schools as we need to, because they are underutilized, it reduces what we need to do in maintenance and so on. So it's really a responsible use of the dollars that we do have to move forward. I'd just like to clarify, just maybe for everyone, we've been working on this for a long time, so it seems really understandable for us. But with that mill levy override from 2017 and the teacher pay, it isn't just an increase in the hourly rate that a teacher makes, but it actually adds days for our kids, so they have those more contact days. Ultimately, however, if that was to be cut, it would cut the overall end of the year earnings from our teachers because of the reduction of days. So we're really fighting on two levels. We're trying to keep our teacher pay up high enough, which is ultimately important for our community. It draws people in when we'll have a better school system because we have happy teachers and teachers that are able to provide for themselves and their families. There's really nowhere to stop. It is all so intertwined and important that we do every single bit of this work and make sure that our community truly understands how all those separate, yes, pieces work, but how they also come together and either help to create what's a great outcome for our students and our staff, or maybe not so much.
Well, and you made a good point, even with the days, because I'm thinking back to when Jen and her team were presenting on curriculum updates recently, and they were talking about just how hard it is to fit everything into the school year with the standards that they have to teach to. And so to lose 5 instructional days would be really bad for our kids. I've had, since I've moved here in 2019, I've had folks tell me we don't go enough. And if you compare it to national averages, the state of Colorado in general, I think goes less than a lot of other states. But there's been that question of like, we already don't go enough, so I can't imagine reducing 5 days off of that. But then to your point, yeah, I mean, having to do a cut to salaries would not be something that we're interested in either. So it's really imperative that we figure out a way to at least continue that 2017 mill levy override. But to your original question, I mean, it's not going to cover all the needs. And those are discussions we'll have to have as well. The fact that it's already not covering the things that were in there in 2017, we'd have to be strategic about what we say it continues to fund moving forward. So.
I think one other thing I would not want us to lose sight of, or maybe just as a reminder, is when we started exploring the consolidation process, we knew that consolidation wasn't the end-all be-all. It was only a piece of what was going to kind of stop the, kind of the sinking ship, so to speak. Like, there were some holes we needed to plug by being more efficient with, using our buildings and working with the staffing model that we use. But it was never going to actually completely solve the problem, because we have still, since 2008, have been shorted $250 million from the state. And so we've never actually been fully funded by the state. And so somehow, again, to Mel and her team and their credit, I have no idea how, when you have the, money that, again, schools are ran by taxpayer dollars. We don't generate our own funds. And so we rely, obviously, on the state, and then by those local mill levy dollars, obviously from our community members, that when they vote those things through, which is really amazing. And like Dr. Hill said, I don't want to lose sight that those mill levy dollars stay local. They go right back into our schools, and you have a school board and obviously a district that local people can come and talk to you about where those local mill levy dollars go to versus what we just are promised by the state. So again, we've been shorted by the state a lot of money over the years. Somehow we still have made it through, thankfully, from these mill levy dollars. But I also want to, I know we're kind of talking, it's like you said, it's all intertwined, but the school consolidation piece was never going to completely solve the problem. There was still an issue of still needing funds to take care of a lot of things that directly impact our students.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because earlier when the other group presented with the 5 pathways, mill levy override was actually one of the pathways. It was, they challenged the district to explore. I think part of the conversation was the 2017 mill levy override and how do we keep it going, but there was a conversation about we need more. And so this is actually trying to fulfill one of the pathways through the Elementary Declining Enrollment Committee's report, is exploring mill levy overrides in the future.
Well, and with the presentation that we just had, if we're wanting to, and I know one of the other pathways was to look at ways we could attract more students to the district, or even as families move here, what are programs like DIA, the STEM, the STEAM, and other things, but those all have to be funded. And again, those don't come from bond dollars, they have to come from mill levy dollars. And so those are things where, to Dr. Hill's credit and the team that he's putting together to go to all these committees that came out of the declining enrollment of looking at these other pathways. Well, all these other pathways cost. I mean, they're going to cost one way or the other. And not that that's wrong, but if we want to have, magnet schools and have options, we have to have the funding in order to staff those and get the resources and do all of those things. So again, I appreciate you bringing this to the board, because these are not conversations people have on a day-in-and-day basis around bonds and mill levies, right? So, and not a lot of people actually even understand how it all works. And And so I think it's important for us to bring our community along so that they understand what it does provide for our students, and that if any of it were to go away, what that means. And so I appreciate you guys bringing this to the board so that we can take some time to work through all of this and digest it, and for the board to really think about what options we have and the timeframes that we have to do these things.
And the only thing I'll say, unless there's other questions, is I just want to reiterate how much we appreciate I know the board does as well, the community, for the 2017 mill levy override dollars, because they are going a long way for us right now, and then also the 2021 bond to get Junction passed. So we are appreciative of that. I want to be clear again, we have not made any decision, so we shouldn't wake up and see any headlines tomorrow that say the school district's going for a bond in '24 or a mill levy override. We're still having that discussion. And then we will continue to update the board and the public moving forward as we get more information. So we'll have agenda items moving forward about this as well. So thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you guys for your work on that. All right, we will move into the business meeting. So Amy, we can go ahead and do roll call. We'll call the meeting to order.
Mr. Chavez.
Here.
Mrs. Evanson.
Here.
Mrs. Heights.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Lima.
Yes.
All right, do I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
All right, so because we've had so many policies that we've needed to go through, you may see some policies that are going to be tagged on to work sessions, and we'll have a business meeting here. So we have the second reading and adoption for policies JLCDC, which is the medically necessary treatment in a school setting, and then JKBA, which is disciplinary removal from classrooms. So so board, is everyone comfortable with these? Did you able to get questions answered over the last couple of weeks, if you had any on these policies? We can have a motion to approve both in one, unless I hear anyone that would like to vote on them individually.
Yes, motion to approve both.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, seeing none, we can call the vote.
Mr. Chavez.
Yes.
Miss Evanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Heights.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Lima.
Yes.
All right, that passes 5-0. And then the next, also, I should have probably said too, we might end up having to put some business meetings on with our work sessions, because we are in the midst of hiring new hires. And so I know it helps our HR department, as the board can approve the ones that need to come before the board. So we do have some personnel actions. We have Todd McClaskey for the principal of the Career Center. We see people want to retire, and then we end up bringing them right back in. So anyways, you can see, yes. So you can see his credentials there, board, on the paper that was provided. These are also at the back of the room for anyone that's interested. So do I have a motion to approve the personnel actions of the administrator new hire?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? I'm really glad that he wants to take this position.
Yes.
I think this is fantastic, and very thankful that we have him to do that, and excited for him to take on what has already happened at the Career Center and just to continue to grow it. So thanks to Mr. McClaskey for doing that. All right, we can go ahead and take the vote.
Mr. Chavez.
Yes.
Mrs. Evanson.
Yes.
Mrs. Heights.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Lima.
Yes.
All right, board, any other discussion?
Actually, I just was actually fortunate enough I got to go to the CASB winter legislative session, which was really cool. I had always seen the Capitol on TV, but getting to go into the building and see how it really works with the House of Representatives and the Senate was just amazing. The sessions were already done, but you got to go and look in the windows and see how they really talk and what they do, and meet with the representatives out there a little bit. So I was like a kid in a candy store in there watching and looking at everything, and don't touch this, touch that. But it was really, really cool to see how things worked out. And but the session itself was, it was a couple days, and it was good. And there were some things that we're learning and things that are in the works, and got to talk to some important people and see what Andrea goes through as a board member. And board of directors. So I'm thankful for the board for letting me go out there, and I'm I can't wait to do some good things with this, so.
Well, thank you for being our CASB delegate and going to the legislative winter session. Also, board members, that is open to anyone. So if it's, if you, obviously, if we get a report back that it was beneficial, and if anybody's interested in attending the following year, just let the district know we have some funds as a board to be able to go and do those things. And I think it's really helpful because it helps you understand, a lot of times from the school board is responsible for creating the policy here at the local level via the Colorado Constitution. But there's things that the legislature is going to do that sometimes, whether fortunately or unfortunately in our eyes, may be laws that we then have to implement in the district. And so I think it helps us have a better understanding of what's going on at those levels. And so anyways, I think those things are fascinating personally, so I'm glad you had a great time.
Yeah, one of the parts that was really cool, and I should have mentioned it earlier, was they had a student engagement, student advisory focus group out there, and there was like five different kids that could make it. 2 from Harrison, 2 from Littleton, and 1 from Aurora, and they pretty much did what you were talking about. They met with the superintendent to talk about the issues of the schools or the issues with the students. So sometimes the students won't talk to us, but they'll talk to these kids. And so they get together, they share their groups or what policies are working, what's not working, report back to the superintendent or attend a board meeting and come and talk to us. So it was really cool to see just a section of our youth talking about the issues of the school. And
That's great. Any other discussion?
The one thing I will add is under personnel actions, well, I want to echo, we're excited for Todd. We're excited to have him back in the district. I know he was super excited about the opportunity, hearing him talk in the interview about the impact the Career Center has on our students. And he even shared, as a principal, when he was at Fruta, not really completely grasping the impact that Career Center has on kids until he's, been there and spent time. And so I know he's really excited, the staff's really excited, and he's been doing great work there all year long. So want to echo that we're appreciative of him coming out of retirement after, it was like only a couple weeks, to be the interim and now to be there as the principal. We do have other admin hiring or hires that we're going through right now, so we'll bring those to the board. We have some other principal openings that we're still interviewing for, and some other administrative level positions, but also we'll give an update at some point on where we are with teaching positions. And we did a lot of work to bump the dates up to be able to get those positions posted, so we'll bring some updates to the board on that as well. And then just a reminder that tomorrow night, myself and Mel and Clint will be attending the city council meeting because we'll be there presenting on the request for the school land dedication fees. And so we have a formal presentation that we'll give. I think we're the last thing on the agenda, and then we'll make that request to them for the release of those funds. And then I think there may be a potential for discussion about the future collection of those fees. So if we gather any information from that, we'll bring it back to the board. But that's tomorrow night that we'll be at that meeting.
Thank you for attending that. And then I have tickets to go to Beauty and the Beast at Fruita Monument High School, which is premiering this weekend, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and you can buy tickets online. So I am excited to take a couple of my kiddos to go see that play. So I couldn't find the Beauty and the Beast movie, and then I heard the play was here, so I was like, we'll just go see the play instead. So anyways, so yeah, check those out because I think we have there's other performance things. Matilda, at where, who's Junction's doing Matilda? Okay.
Yeah, I think actually so Central's doing Mean Girls. Palisades got one as well. I think maybe all 4 are doing shows Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So yeah.
Is it all this weekend, everyone?
I think 3 of the 4, if not all 4, have shows this weekend.
Okay.
3, okay.
All right, well, then I guess you'll just either be or you'll have to choose, yeah. Yeah, which they're super fun to go to, so I'm excited to see Beauty and the Beast, so.
So one thing I forgot, also recognitions, the Fruita the boys team.
Mm-hmm.
They made it to the grade 8 or final 8, Elite 8, we want to call it, and lost a good game. They were down by 20 points and pulled it in within 6 or 7 to lose by that. But they made 26-1 for a season. That's a great season for Fruta, and congratulations to that coach, and
Yeah,
looking for more things from those guys. So
that's great.
And we do have a board coffee on Saturday.
Oh, yes, who's,
I'm going.
okay,
You and I?
okay.
Oh, look out.
All right. Jose Luis and
Lively time.
Angela will be at the board coffee on Saturday, and it's at Pomona?
Pomona.
Yeah,
There we go.
it'll be in the Pomona cafeteria, so. All right, do I have any other, I don't want to cut anybody off, any other comments? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and have a good evening.